What's up, math scholars and math haters? This is Mr. W. Today we're going to tackle question 6 in the 5th grade math questions that North Carolina released this past school year. The question tells us that Tracy ran a total of 5 3/4 miles on Saturday and Sunday. She ran 1 5/8 miles on Saturday, and we're supposed to find out how many miles she ran on Sunday. Alright, in order to do really well on a question like this, if you see it come up on your test, you need to know how to look at a word problem and translate it. And we're also going to be working with mixed numbers, and the fractions are going to have different denominators. So it's going to be a little weird. But we're going to work it out. We'll be okay. Alright, so I want to start with this word total, because the word total tells me that I'm going to be adding. And specifically, since it says Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to make my word sentence and say that Saturday plus Sunday equals the total miles. Next thing I'm going to do is fill in some of the information and some of the numbers that I already know. So my total is 5 3/4. Saturday, Saturday Tracy ran 1 5/8. That looks like a 6. And we're supposed to figure out how many miles she ran on Sunday. So we filled in our information, we have a number that we don't know, and now if you've seen any of my other videos where I do a question like this, you probably guessed where I'm going next. I'm going to use fact families, and I'm going to say that if I know that 1 5/8 plus something equals 5 3/4, then I can just as easily say that 5 3/4 minus 1 5/8 is going to get me the answer that I'm looking for. And I took a little bit of a shortcut with the way that I wrote this because I need to conserve space. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the trick that I like to do when I add and subtract mixed numbers, where I separate my numbers and my fractions. This is the kind of question where it can be a little easier to do this. There is another method that would work for any situation that I'll go ahead and show us. So essentially, I'm going to start with 5 minus 1. 5 minus 1 is, of course, 4. And now I'm going to do 3/4 minus 5/8. These don't have a common denominator, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my two denominators, 4 and 8. And I'm going to ask, how many times does the smaller one go into the bigger one? If it goes evenly. If it goes evenly, great. It makes the problem a lot easier for us. If not, then we're going to have to pull out a couple other little tricks to figure this out. But 4 goes into 8 two times, which means I'm going to do times 2 and times 2 in my numerator and denominator, which gives me 6/8. So now I'm doing 6/8 minus 5/8. And I want to point out, as I do with any problem that involves fractions with common denominators, 6/8 minus 5/8 is a bit like saying 6 inches minus 5 inches. We're actually going to leave these 8s alone, because 6 inches minus 5 inches just gives us 1 inch. And so 6/8 minus 5/8 would just give us 1/8. So our answer is going to be 4 1/8, which is right there, choice B. So now I'm going to go ahead and show the other method. This is one that you might want to have in your back pocket because it will work for more difficult questions. But essentially, this method involves setting up this same equation and even doing the same subtraction stuff, but instead of working with the numbers and the fraction parts separately, we're going to go ahead and change the mixed numbers into improper fractions, find a common denominator, and do mostly the same stuff that we did for this method. So I still know that I'm doing 5 3/4 minus 1 5/8, but I'm going to go ahead and change each of these into improper fractions. And my method for changing a mixed number into an improper fraction is what I call the left to right swoosh. I multiply 4 times 5 and I add 3. This gets me 23/4. And now I do the same thing for 1 5/8. I multiply 1 times 8 and I add 5 to get 13/8. And now I still need to find a common denominator, and I'm still going to use the fact that 4 goes into 8 two times 2 times 2. And this gets me 46 over 8 minus 13 over 8. So now I have a similar subtraction problem. I'm going to do 46 minus 13, which gets me 33 eighths, just like 46 inches minus 13 inches would just get me 13 inches. And now my goal is to turn this back into a mixed number. So to do that, I'm going to see how many times 8 goes into 33. And if I can write out my 8 times tables, 8, 16, 24, 32, too many. So it can go 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So this is 4 and something over 8. And now I just have to do 33 minus 32, which gets me 1. So my final answer, using the different method, is the same as, or using the two methods, I got the same answer, 4 1/8, or choice B.